going to tell you a little bit of how I was feeling when I first started pursuing a stay at home job, position, whatever it was that I was looking for. And when I ran across this blueprint, how I was feeling was overwhelmed. Like, I don't know how else to put it, but I was at the time, and it's something that I absolutely agreed to. I thought that it was going to help us get ahead and just get the income that we needed, but I was working double shifts, and a lot of people do that. It's not anything new. And I was working as much overtime as possible. The job that I was in was working every other weekend as well, which is fairly normal as well. And just taking on so much that I was working literally from before the sun came up until the evening when the sun was about to go down, like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then I would come home, and at the same time that I was doing this, I was homeschooling my kids. Okay, so what that looked like was me dropping them off at my mom's, and I had all the schoolwork prepared. And then at the time, it was just my son. This is the first year I'm homeschooling my daughter because she's finally old enough and she's super excited. But what that looked like was just my mom was sitting down and helping him if he needed help. And he was just like kind of following the instructions. And then when I got home, after working from sunup to sundown, I was going over his schoolwork and making sure that everything that he did was correct. And then if he had some problems with something, I was going over that with him as well. So that was everything that I did in about a 6 month period, was how long I was able to sustain that. And then every single day almost, I was coming home, and I would just, before I was able to even talk to anybody, I came into the bedroom and I just laid down and I just cried. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I didn't even know really what I was crying about. I was just so overwhelmed and so burned out and so tired. And I was to the point where I knew I couldn't keep it up anymore, because what I wanted was to be home with my kids, and I wanted to be that full-time homeschooler, caregiver, taking care of my household. And I knew that where we were in a position of it, I knew that we weren't going to be able to do it without an income, because we're not rich or anything like that. And we have always had to survive on two incomes, because that's kind of how it is. The economy has gotten even worse, since my daughter was born. And so, which she was born in 2020, but the economy has just kind of really gone downhill. And we got to the point where we knew that we were always just going to have those two full-time jobs. Okay, so, you know, going through this double shifts and this overtime and just trying to get as much money as possible, we still were just barely keeping our heads above water because we had a lot of medical bills. We still have medical bills. And we were fighting through that, plus the rising costs of everything, gas, groceries. What used to be, we could make $150 stretch for 2 weeks. We were now spending over double that. And it was all basic things. And that wasn't even including, the soaps and the shampoos and, the different things like that, and laundry, detergent. That was just food alone. And it got to the point where it was absolutely overwhelming. I don't know how else to put that. And I finally sat down with my husband, and he knew what I was going through, and we were just, searching for another answer. And he absolutely 100% supported my desire to stay home with the kids. He was like, we're going to figure this out so you can do this. And we were praying about it, and we're like, asking God to lead us into something that allowed me to stay home with the kids, allowed me to homeschool them and to be present with them and to take care of our home without having to completely drown in debt, and completely not be able to hold our heads above water when it came to our finances. And so that's when I really started searching, and I ran across this blueprint. And 3 months ago, I finally made that decision. I did a lot of hemming and hawing, and what if I fail? What if I'm not good at this? That sort of thing. And I finally made that decision a little over 3 months ago because I had gotten to the point where I knew I wasn't going to be able to sustain that working constantly and homeschooling. And, maybe about 4 months ago, before a little bit before I ended up getting this, investing in this blueprint, I did go back down to part time, and we just like really budgeted as low as we possibly could in order to try to get that to happen, because I knew that it was going to get to the point where I was basically working like 2.5 to 3 jobs. And I knew that, I mean, some people can do that, but I guess I'm not really cut out for that. And I knew that the mental stress and emotional overload was going to start spilling over into my relationship with my kids. And I did not want to be the one to dump all of that stuff on them, because kids shouldn't have to go through that. So, my husband and I, we just really, you know, sat down and we kind of worked out a plan together and just kind of left it up into God's hands. And when I finally ended up investing in this blueprint, it took me a little bit to get the hang of it, to get the website, set up and get all that. But I just kept learning more and more. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can turn this into something that would allow us not just to stay afloat, but to actually get ahead, and that was the most exciting thing to me. Was I never was looking for something to, get rich quick, or to, get rich at all, really. All I wanted was enough to where we could live comfortably. And that's what this blueprint is doing for me. That's the hope that it gives me, and that's the hope that I try to share with others. Because if you resonate with any of the stuff that I just said, if you have felt that way before, you know how awful it feels, especially if you have kids and then your children are asking you why you're so upset, and you're like, I don't know. Like, how do you relate that, to your small children, So, and it's another thing, you don't want to overwhelm them with your emotions. So you try to stay strong and everything. Um, but yeah, if you have ever felt like that, it's not a pleasant feeling. And the hope that this blueprint gave me for a better future, and to be able to build something that will last and that I have access to 24/7, and that is constantly working for me, it was a huge weight off of my shoulders. And I know this video is really long, and I'm so happy if you decided to stay this long. Um, but I just really wanted to let you guys know that I know a lot of people are probably feeling like that. I know I'm not the only one, to feel stressed and overwhelmed and burned out. And I want you to know that there is a better way of doing things, and that you're not alone, So if you have felt like that, and even if you're not interested in investing in this blueprint, go ahead and let me know in the comments, because I think it's important that we lean on each other and kind of let each other know that we're not alone in this. So even if you have no interest in this blueprint, if you've run across this video and you're just looking for encouragement, I encourage you to comment, and we will have a conversation about it. And I will absolutely let you know that you are not alone in this.